Have you ever really looked at the world around you? I mean, really looked. Just beneath the surface of everything we see, there are these incredible hidden connections that power all of nature. Today, we're going to journey into those connections, into the amazing ecosystems that make up the web of life.
So, it all really boils down to one huge question. How are all living things connected? I mean, think about it. From a tiny microbe in the dirt to a giant blue whale in the ocean. From a single blade of grass to a massive rainforest. Absolutely nothing in nature is ever truly on its own.
You know, this quote just says it all, doesn't it? This is the core rule of life on Earth. Interdependence. It's this powerful, invisible force that weaves the entire living world together. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack. Okay, so to really understand these connections, we've got to first understand the stage where this all plays out. So our journey has to start with a really basic question. What exactly is an ecosystem? Well, an ecosystem is basically a community where living things and non-living things all interact with each other. The key here is that they all depend on one another for survival. You can almost think of it as its own little self-sustaining world, complete and functioning all by itself.
And inside every single ecosystem, you'll find two main parts. On one side, you have the biotic, that's all the living stuff, the plants and the animals. And on the other side, you have the abiotic, the non-living things, like water, soil, the air, and of course, the sunlight that gives it all energy.
Now, the force that holds these two sides together, that's interdependence. This is just a word for that mutual reliance, where the survival of one thing directly affects the survival of a whole bunch of other things. It's a really delicate, really critical balance. And to see this idea of interdependence in action, let's just look at one abiotic element, water. As you can see here, it's so much more than just something to drink. For starters, it's a habitat, a home for countless creatures. It's also crucial for the chemical reactions inside our bodies, and it's what plants use to make food. It even helps some plants reproduce. It's just a perfect example of how one non-living thing can be the cornerstone for an entire system.
All right, now that we've got the definition down, let's take a quick tour across our planet to see just how incredibly diverse these interconnected worlds can be.
We see them everywhere, in the super dry, sun-baked deserts and under the shady, green canopies of forests. They exist in the cold, frozen ground of the tundra and all across the wide-open grasslands. From the huge, powerful currents in our oceans to the gentle streams of our rivers. Each one is a unique world with its own set of rules for survival.
But here's the thing. No matter how different these worlds look on the surface, they're all powered by the exact same engine, the flow of energy. And to understand how they work, we have to ask a pretty basic question. Who eats whom?
In every ecosystem, every living thing plays one of three main roles. First, you've got the producers. They're the ones making the food. Then you've got the consumers, who eat the food. And finally, the decomposers, who are basically nature's cleanup crew, recycling everything that dies.
The simplest way to really picture this flow of energy is with something called a food chain. It shows us a straight line, a direct path of energy moving from one organism to the next.
In this classic example, the energy starts with the grass, which gets its energy from the sun. That energy then gets transferred to the rabbit when it eats the grass. And finally, the energy moves to the fox when it hunts and eats the rabbit. Those arrows, they show you exactly which way the energy is flowing.
So let's look a little closer at these roles, starting with the producers. These guys are the absolute foundation of the whole system. They're the plants that use photosynthesis to turn sunlight into food. You could say they are the ultimate power source for almost all life on Earth.
Next up, we have the consumers. These are all the animals that can't make their own food. So to get energy, they have to eat other living things, either plants or other animals.
Okay, but here's the thing. Nature is rarely that simple. A single food chain is just one tiny thread in a much, much bigger picture. To see what's really going on, we need to zoom out and look at the whole food web. A food web. Now this shows us what's actually happening in an ecosystem. You have thousands of those little food chains all overlapping and connecting with each other. It's a way more complex and way more accurate picture of how energy really moves around. Let's try to trace some energy in this savanna food web. See how the acacia tree isn't just eaten by one animal? Both the giraffe and the rhino eat it. And the grasses? Maybe a grasshopper eats them, but then a bird eats the grasshopper.
and then maybe a baboon eats the bird. It's this beautiful, dynamic network of connections. Now, within this web, we can spot different levels. You've got your primary consumers, the herbivores, like the mouse that eats grass. Then, they get eaten by secondary consumers, like a lynx. And at the top of this particular chain, you have the tertiary consumers. These are the top predators, like the leopard, who might hunt the lynx.
So, we've seen how energy gets made and how it gets eaten. But the cycle's not finished yet. What happens when all these plants and animals die? Well, that brings us to the final and maybe the most important role of all, nature's cleanup crew. These are the decomposers. We're talking about organisms like bacteria and fungi. We might not see them, but their job is absolutely essential. They are nature's recycling team, breaking down all the dead stuff, from a fallen leaf to the body of the biggest animal.
And this process is what closes the loop. It's the final crucial link. By breaking down all that dead material, decomposers put vital nutrients back into the soil. And who uses those nutrients? The producers, the plants. They soak them up to grow, which completes the circle of life and lets the whole thing start over again. Nothing is ever wasted.
So, we've seen how every single part of an ecosystem, both the living and the non-living, is tangled together in this delicate web. And that leaves us with one last, really important question. If everything is so deeply connected, what happens when just one link in that web gets broken?